Hello, friends and compatriots. It is the episode 6 post-edit recap, which means it's full spoilers time. So if you haven't read that whole story, including Jessica and the Killer Electric fan, get out of here.
Get out of here!
Because it's maximum spoilers.
Yeah! Don't talk about that fan in the comments, y'all.
We should begin the video now.
Let's go. How do we start these? I forget. Hello, everyone, and welcome.
Welcome back. My goodness.
We're in the post-edit recap for episode 6.
Episode 6.
Dawn of the Golden Witch. It's lovely to be here. How you doing, Felix?
I've been well. It's been a long time since we've sat down to do this.
I've forgotten how to do it. I know I say that every time, but this time I really have. It's not a joke this time. It's true. Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty hype about this. I watched not the tea parties, but the finale of episode 6 all the way through. One of the few episodes that I was just like sat through the entire thing, didn't hit pause, you get tea or anything. Because it's not like episode 5's ending where it's like a roller coaster of emotion, but it's just hype the whole way through. And Beatrice is the best. I love her.
It's just maximum energy. I think definitely the part that they caught me off guard both the first and the second time was, I don't know the name of the track, but when Cannon's running over
oh my goodness
to the mansion and they like the straight up like
I know the guitar we all know what track you're talking about. Yeah
that caught me off guard the second time as well.
That is an excellent track that just doesn't make any sense that it's there, but Cannon's great.
It is
he has
good.
his redemption arc in that one episode. Apparently a lot of people don't like Cannon, but I love him. I think he's a sweet baby boy.
I mean, it's good that people have opinions on the characters.
It's true. I have opinions too. How about can we talk about Beatrice and Battler and their relationship in this episode?
Absolutely.
And things like that, because that's always fun.
I mean, personally, I think it's a bit off topic of us.
I know.
To talk about
the characters in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to shout out, because it's something we're going to talk about. There was some comments that were made by myself and by people in throughout the episode 6's release. Crap, what was it? I've just blanked. I put it in Rot 13, but it was about how you know what it was? Because it's something that I brought up quite a few times, but then didn't really talk about.
Yeah.
But I talked about on the episode 6 podcast was the sun and the moon and how they're a thing in alchemy. How the sun is like energetic and lively and the moon is more self-reflective, and how they kind of reflected Beatrice and Battler for episodes 1 to 4. But then in this episode it's reversed, because Beatrice is the one who's being all thinky and reflective and Battler's the hot stud. And I made a comment about how it's fitting that in the Dawn chapter that those positions are flipped, because it's now the sun's turn instead of the moon.
Yeah, you were saying that it was basically like, what would the old you do in this situation?
Yes.
Which is really interesting, especially looking at like how what Battler's doing this episode is basically what Beatrice was doing in previous episodes, is throwing everything on the line to try get the other back.
Yes, with the logic error, which you had some reservations about during recording.
Yeah, I think it wasn't not necessarily reservations, it's just that I hadn't spotted it and I hadn't really had time to think over it, because you said it in the recap, and that was like the first time it had even crossed my mind.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
You who have predicted like 90% of the story from day one, basically.
I think
it's very interesting.
The problem was, in terms of why I didn't think it that way, is like I kind of already believed when we got to the logic error that Battler knew that it was going to happen, but what I thought it was going to be was something along the lines of he had already had some major trick up his sleeve, and I'd spent so long trying to figure out what that trick was that I'd kind of like blanked out thinking about other things that could be going on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was something you thought even back in episode 4, which I don't know if we've talked about this once again, but like how when we were going through Beatrice's fight with Battler, you were like, well, surely Beatrice is going to pull something out of her pocket here to like confuse Battler and take back her advantages. And like, and this is definitely something that's been, all through your reasoning is like, well, surely Beatrice won't reveal that there's less than 19 people because that would be a huge advantage given away. But then she just does because she wants you to figure it out.
Yeah, the entire bit at the end of episode 4 when Battler like says the small bomb theory is Beatrice doesn't counter it.
No. Because that's not her jam. Her jam is not to be like, no, let me fight back. She's just letting Battler do his thing. And that's what's happening here. The positions have reversed. The sun hath become the moon. Because, I don't think that there's really that much room to argue against the idea that Battler made the logic error on purpose. In the same way that Beatrice traps herself on purpose. The same way that Ava Beatrice, with her web, isolates a single truth, the truth that there has to be someone who exists without a name if all names are accounted for. Like, if we, don't just fall along with the, it's all magic and none of it makes sense, but yeah, like, I don't think that there's much room to argue against the idea that Battler did it intentionally because he knows everything. And if we, the reader, can like figure out that there's something wrong here, that there is a solution, then why can't the game master, who by virtue of, being able to use the golden truth, like they have to know everything.
Yeah.
It's part of the rules.
I think one of the other things was, and I brought this up in the previous recap, which was actually what I came up with on the spot at the time, was the idea that all of the Twilights for this episode were made as choices to reflect the relationship that Seo and Battler had.
Yes.
And I think that, especially if you look at the episode in that light and looking at how all of the clues in this episode don't necessarily make the mystery hard for the reader. They make the solution obvious, but that's kind of the point.
Yeah. It's actually something that I've taught a lot of people about. They talk about how Ryukishi, repeats the same theme over and over again from scene to scene. And that's what's happening with the different Twilights. But really, that's just to show that it's important. That's just Ryukishi showing the significance of it and how it's like love and the impact that love has on you and the way that it can bind and constrict you, the way that it can put you in a bad situation, is essential, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think to some extent, I definitely do see a lot of people over-defend Ryukishi's, repeating of themes.
Yeah.
But I think that, even though it is a clunky method of writing, understanding why it's there is still valuable.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's not like it's perfectly written, and it's not like necessarily that the translation's perfect either.
No.
But, at least the majority of the time in editing, it seems that repetitions are on purpose.
Yeah.
As clunky as that can be.
Ryukishi does nothing indeliberately. And when I say, I've actually, once again, I've been having a lot of discussions with some new people in the Umineko fandom who I will not name for sake of being a lovely human being, where I've debated, they have a lot of problems with Umineko. I'm like, I'm not saying you're entirely wrong, but, you have to understand that Ryukishi does these things deliberately, even if his scenes can drag on, or you may not find the love scenes that interesting, or whatever your problem may be. It's all done deliberately, and you have to be able to figure that out. That's kind of what Ryukishi wants from you. But yeah, I think you did a pretty good job with this. As I've said, this is the thing that I was concerned would happen to you, that you'd be like, well, I don't really like the love scenes, so whatever.
Yeah, hot take. The love scenes are garbage. Let's not do that.
Let's not go there. Point is, do you want to go there?
Let's talk about. Let's. I mean, I think there is some scope to discuss people who don't take the story with love.
Yeah.
The story tells you how to treat it, and I feel
pretty explicitly, yeah.
I think one of the interesting things is that much with Erika. Knowing her role in the story, particularly when we get to the end with Hachijo and Featherin talking about how they perceive the reader and these ignorant pigs that I'd rather not have read for me. I feel on a reread, it seemed more like Hachijo and Featherin were framed in the same way as Erika, where their role in the story is to be the combatant for the reader.
Yeah.
Even if that's not necessarily the way that they feel.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest strengths I feel of Umineko, is that every character has a role and they play to that role.
Yeah.
I would argue that there aren't too many surprises in terms of character development, if that makes... that might sound like a criticism, but I would say it's a strength. That you're okay, Natsuhi is paranoid and proud, and she has these problems, And when she kind of acts outside of that, it's usually due to the fictional what's the word I'm looking for? Like stretchiness of of the fact that it's the message bottles and it's a story written by people and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But like every character has a story and they cannot act outside of what they would do. They don't like change drastically, and I like that.
There is still development, and I think one of the other strong points is characterization in indirect means. One of the things, I've been doing a discussion series of short podcasts with a few of the other Let's Players, Newt3012, Crazy Fox, and Sabata. And basically in those podcasts, they brought up the fact that, you know, they were really frustrated that George and Jessica just like weren't characters. They were so bland. They didn't get any development. But I really disagreed with them, not on the grounds that I thought that they were wrong, but on the grounds that I think that that's kind of the point. You know, they're not the subject characters of the story.
Yeah,
like the main characters are the ones that get development. And I think if anything, it's kind of impressive how much characterization they get indirectly through their actions and the ways that the main characters interact with them. Like, it's like complaining about any side character not getting enough screen time in a show.
I actually want to say, this feels like, when I first read Imaneko, my focus was solely on George, Jessica, Battler, Maria.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised that there was so much focus put on the adults because I have read Higurashi. And in Higurashi, the adults really do not matter, like, hardly at all.
Yeah.
The focus is solidly on the group of kids that are hanging out and having fun and becoming embroiled in murder mystery. So I feel like I'm pretty sure those other people you've mentioned have all like read Higurashi first, or most of them have.
Yeah, no, that would make sense.
So if you're like, why are George and Jessica getting the focus? It's because they're not as much the focus.
Yeah. But I did think particularly, and I mean also with the adults, like particularly with Hideyoshi, the way that they characterize his actions, and like, you know, when he starts to tell a story and they cut away and it's very much implied that he continued the story even after the cutaway.
Absolutely.
Ways that they characterize in the background in this story are very nicely done.
Yeah.
Speaking of characterization, let's tangent over to Erica's characterization in this episode. Because I know we've spoken a bit about, you know, Erica's role in the story already in both recaps. One of the things that I definitely noticed a lot in this episode, particularly in editing, I noticed it a lot the first time through, as you can probably hear with how uncomfortable I was, especially in like the scene where she's, you know, when she's beating down Maria, and then when she's discussing her boyfriend with Lenore. I was like, Erica's about to do something really bad, and they're establishing why her personality is this way. And I think that was a very interesting twist on this episode. I guess twist is maybe the wrong word, because it's kind of too linear. The fact that it's like, here is Erica being bad and sociopathic.
Like, what could this be setting up? Something bad, maybe. I feel you.
But it was a very interesting change of Erica's role, well, elaboration of Erica's role in the story, where in the last episode we got to see all of these same character traits that she had, but then in episode 6 it was just like turned up to 11.
There was a very big like escalation of her character that Ryukishi didn't need to do. But yeah, I mean, he's just doing it to escalate, because that's what Shiro's all about. It's about saying like, here's this murder mystery plot. Let's bring the witches in. Let's bring the magic in. Let's bring Erica's denial of the truth in, which is what it is. As much as she declares herself as a detective, she's denying the truth. That's her job, her role.
There was, I don't remember whether it was in the comments or whether it was something that we were discussing, but I do enjoy the irony of the fact that Erica is denying the truth by replacing it with her own, which is exactly the same thing that magic does.
Yes. Denying a truth or making a truth more palatable through magic. That's like what the purpose is.
Like, that was, I think one of the best things about that is the example of the cheese right at the start of episode 6. It's like, well, the picture shows a wheel of cheese, but you know what? Fuck you. The cheese is zigzagged.
Yeah. That's not what the riddle says, so it's totally legit and makes sense, right?
Like, it is a cheese-focused summary of exactly how Erica treats things, and exactly how Erica works the same way with magic. Also, I do have to say, Ben,
what
do you consider my joking answer of Swiss cheese before the real solution was posed a valid alternative?
No, all truths are valid except for that one. Swiss cheese is never a valid answer.
Normally, if we were recording and my head had been completely in the game, I would have leapt on the fact that I joked about Swiss cheese just before they said that cheese is different shaped, but I wasn't quite on top of it. But I just absolutely lost it in editing when I said Swiss cheese, and I was like, oh my god, how did I not just like escalate that. But yeah, it was like one of the scenes going through the first time, that cheese scene, that I was like, why is this here? Like, I get it, Erica's just being a dick. But in editing, I definitely understood, like, this is Erica's treatment of magic in cheese form, and I think that was really well done.
Yeah. Erica's a dick, guys. I mean, that's what those scenes are for. It really just hammers it home for you to set up Kyrie cannot save Battler, which is the best line, I think, of the entire episode.
It's very interesting for me to consider, like, how that would have been framed as a surprise for people, because I still absolutely love that moment, even though I went in basically knowing exactly what was going on. But then I know a lot of people were apparently surprised that I figured that out.
I mean, you're paying attention to the story, you're going over it and stuff. I don't think that's unsurprising, but so few people actually do that. Most people just read it as a... this is where it starts to sound pretentious, but most people just read it as a piece of entertainment, and they read through it and they enjoy it. They might smash through it in a week, they might go through a little bit of time, but they don't think about it, and they go home and they're like, wow, that was a great read about a witch and a murder mystery. But you really went to town on trying to solve everything.
I mean, that's the show, right?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
But it was interesting for me to try and consider how that would have been, like, as a surprise. You know, they going through and editing, I just rewatched the scene without our vocal track over it, and it's like, oh yes, heroic music. Kyria comes down the corridor. All of the character models have smiles on them.
It's
just like build up the emotion. It's so fantastic. Just that moment where it just cuts and goes the red text across the screen. Part of me would have loved to have had that as a surprise, but I think that it speaks very strongly for how it's set up. That I still that's one of my favorite moments from the entire playthrough.
Yeah,
is just that, like, the music cuts and I'm like, oh yep, there it is. We're done. It's over.
Yeah.
I don't want to retread too much ground on that, though, because I think we've definitely discussed that to death, I mean, especially in the podcast.
Yeah, and we've definitely talked about Erica a lot, which is why, as much as I'd love to talk about her, I feel like we don't want to, completely drive her to the ground. Though we do love her as much as she is the worst character ever. Oh my god. Watching her, like,
best
get up
character,
at the end,
worst person.
Yeah. Watching her get up at the end and being like, yo, my master ain't here, let's go. Like, I still, like... There's something really heroic about even the way that she speaks those lines.
I wish that the anime that doesn't exist wasn't so garbage.
There was only an OP.
That would have been so good.
Yeah, it would have.
I think one of the other things completely unrelated to this was just looking through the mystery a bit. I particularly enjoyed the analysis just after the Logic Era, where it's like, well, if you look at where everyone stayed, then suddenly all of the rooms that they were chosen for make sense. Kyrie was in Krause's study where it was comfortable and had air conditioning, and they went through this whole bit.
Yeah.
I did particularly enjoy poking out the whole bullshit with diplomatic immunity when it came to Maria.
Yeah.
Because I remember Aspirity, shout out to Aspirity.
Shout out.
He was like, God, the diplomatic immunity was so bullshit. It feels like such a cop out. But I did particularly like the idea that it was not only just an embodiment of, like, marriage, sorcière, and how they're not allowed to, like, deny each other with magic, and maybe Maria just didn't want to die. But I also really like the idea that with, like, the defensive barrier that Shannon put up was literally just her dealing with Maria's shit, like, just letting her burn herself out. Like, I don't want to die. I don't want my mum to be dead in the game board. Just, like, the defensive barrier is just her sitting there, like, let her get it out of her system.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with you, but hey, it's totally possible.
I mean, it's the same thing with, like, the theory of Dr. Nanjo being Garp.
That's Dr. Nanjo in a dress, which we all want.
But, like, my shorthand of it was, like, Maria standing there with Seo just being like, make the fat one have huge boobs.
Wow.
Like... I love the idea of Maria's, like, just, like, role as a child in the story, and how it can actually explain away a bunch of things, even if it's not necessarily perfect. I still like those kind of goofy solutions.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I chatted with you a little about is that I feel like the board of episode 6 makes, like, slightly less sense, certainly than the question arc boards do.
Yeah.
And this is mainly in reference to the solution to the logic error, where if we map out the events, so everyone's sealed in the rooms, and Erica's like, I'm going to go kill everyone now, or we'll kill Battler now.
Yeah.
And then Sayo, which, we know Sayo is Sayo on the board. This is a real person. Is in the room with George and that, or rather, in the room with George and that.
Yep.
And then they, move out the window and they go and save Battler, and that's fine. Like the idea of saving Battler, because they've figured out, because they had this whole murder thing planned and it hasn't been working out the way they thought it would. They haven't killed anyone, but they've realized that Erica's going to kill Battler. And like, all right, I'm going to go save him. The fact that they then run to the chained room, unchain it, go inside, and are like, Battler, you should leave the room. And Battler's like, but why would you stay in here? And they're like, well, to preserve the mystery. I'm like, yeah, but isn't Erica gonna like kill you if you stay in here? Like, that's kind of the explanation I think that they're going for, is that because Sayo was very much about like fate and chance and playing to the game board. Like that's a thing that they believe in. But like the idea that they would not just be like, hey, Battler, we should both get out of here. Or Battler is like, wait, why are you staying in here and telling me why do you want me to leave?
Yeah, why is it not Kyrie? What happened to Kyrie?
Where did Kyrie go? Like, I'm not saying there isn't an explanation. I'm not saying that it doesn't make any sense at all. But I think that just in the scope of, like, the game boards, episode 6 makes the least sense. I think there are the most, like, holes there.
The most logical leaps into why it is a plausible reality.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I guess not on the in reality, not on the game board, but not the future reality.
Yes.
The present reality.
Why it would not make sense if this was the reality?
If this was the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has the most holes there. But then, of course, we've also got just Erica killing everyone, who is, she's a dead person, so, whatever.
Yeah. I think it's definitely one of the things that speaks to the motive of the motive
of the author,
the motive
just
of the
general,
author,
yeah.
And also just like another piece of evidence as to why the logic error was like on purpose.
Yep.
The idea that it's more meant to show, readers and show the role of Beatrice in the story without ever explicitly being like, hello, Beatrice is two people.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Two people.
It's... Yeah.
How you feeling?
I don't necessarily want to make any like lofty claims about how significant it is.
Yeah.
Because I definitely don't want to get on the bandwagon of calling it a perfect story.
Umineko? No, I would never say that. Unfortunately, that's the impression that a lot of people seem to have. So when I defend Umineko, I'm saying like, Umineko is the best thing. It'll change your life. I'm like, no, I mean it might, but I definitely don't. It didn't change mine, or I should say, it didn't change like the way that I perceive the world or anything like that. It did, however, get me a kick-ass playthrough that's 3/4 of the way done now and still going strong. Shout out to the fans, or you lovely people.
Have a fan just fall across the screen.
Please do. Yeah, like it's been great. It's been great meeting all the new people and sharing theories and all that stuff.
I think one of the
influenced my life.
One of the other things is it's also just like as we've spoken about in previous recaps, especially like how the music's kind of dodgily produced, but still also really fantastically speaks
wonderful.
for the emotion of the scene. It's a story that's really good despite the rough edges, and that's something that I really like.
It's what I would call a flawed masterpiece, which is, I think that's a pretty apt term, because there are some problems, there are some things that people will hate about the story. Some people will not like that magic is in here at all. Shout out to that one commenter.
Oh, that one Steam review.
Yeah, that one guy. But yeah, I think that it does enough crazy shit, and it tries to tackle so much, but like identity and communication and storytelling and myth and narrative and like how we relate to each other as human beings. I think it's like entirely worth reading, even for its flaws.
And I think regardless of how like good or bad you think the story is, I think that the fact that it has made so many people excited about its genre, not only about visual novels, which like, not necessarily for me, but just about mystery fiction in general. Like the number of people that I've heard go like, yeah, I didn't really read any mystery fiction, but I've read like all of these books now that I finished Umineko, and I've been like, I read like 20-something short stories online to try like, work out how the tricks work and stuff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like any piece of fiction that can get you excited about a subject. Like clearly the author has a lot of passion for that and knows how to get other people hype, which is really cool.
I mean, it's like, as bad as the anime was, Aspire already said to me, it got a lot of people into the visual novel.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks well for how good the source material is, that it can still get people excited enough to look further into it, right? Regardless of how garbage it is.
Yeah, definitely. Although I would like to watch it. I still haven't watched the Umineko anime. I've seen clips, but shout out to Canon and his fight against Lucifer. That fight is just, it's badly animated and it's fan servicey. Like, the only part that's well animated is the way that Lucifer's breasts like jiggle about the screen. Everything else is just like, this is not well timed. This is like 1 frame for 4 seconds of animation. It's anyway.
Yes, our characters lunging forwards with a sword. Let's show their crotch.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Like, it's not good.
I did. I suppose the other thing we've covered. I think between this, the podcast, which you should totally check out. The Rekenjima.org podcast. Good fun. I think we've spoken about most of the things that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I might sound like I'm rambling a little bit, like I don't have as much to say as usual. That's because I don't. That's because we're nearing the end. We're nearing the end of this wonderful journey, and like. I still have people who like message me online are like, what do you think about this mystery? What do you think about that? But I'm past the point where I'm like thinking about Umineko every single day of my life, which I know is shocking to hear, but like...
What? I still think about it every day as I edit it every day to try to keep up with these goddamn deadlines.
Ooh. I think about it almost every day now, but like, I feel like... I don't know. Personally, I feel like I'm kind of done with like solving individual scenes. I still like think about the themes of the novel and I use it as inspiration for my other creative works. You know, when I make a roleplay character, there's always just a little bit of me. It's like, I could make Genji, but as an orc barbarian. That'd be fun. That's the thing I could do.
I think one of the things, definitely in rereading, like there are certain things that I noticed, like for example, Shannon and George's discussion where they're like talking about their future and you're like, why do you think Shannon would have a problem with this? And I just completely
you're like, I have no clue. And I was really sad. I was actually really sad during that scene because I was like, because they can't have kids. Oh god.
It just straight up never occurred to me that would be a problem because legitimately I remember thinking in that scene, well, they could just adopt. And I just moved on.
It's so sad. Shout out to episode 2's ending where men love you for your body and nothing else.
Yeah.
Shout out to all of that.
Like, it was...
God.
In retrospect, it was a really stupid thing to think.
It's okay.
But... Like, that was straight up just what I thought when that scene played. So you're like, why do you think Shannon would have a problem with this? And I'm like, I don't know.
They can figure it out. I'm sure that they don't have any insecurities about
sure it's fine.
not being able to make babies with their body. I'm sure that's not a thing that keeps them up at night and makes them want to murder people. Anyway, yeah.
I mean, yeah. But I think it's definitely valuable for me still going through the second time, I mean, arguably fourth time if we're being super strict about it. But just like, you know, seeing the things that I missed.
Yeah.
I think that's really valuable and I certainly appreciate that experience. But at the same time, I think it's good to, you know, once you're done with it, distance yourself from it and then come back to it later.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because if you're stuck with one work of fiction, you're never really going to grow your palette and your abilities.
Yeah, I agree. You want to consume a wide berth of media and not all written by the same person. You can't read Umineko and Higurashi and say you've read multiple. It doesn't work that way. Go play an action video game or go read an actual love story like Romeo and Juliet. Go read that.
Or go half read another visual novel, go, God, this sucks, and then just Wikipedia it.
I'm not sure which one you're referencing because I'm sure you've done that multiple times by now. I'm actually reading Rewrite right now, which is one of Key's games, and she wrote a route in that, which apparently is the weakest part of the novel, so I'm scared, because if it is just endless prose, there's no character dialogue, it's just the same line repeated over and over again for 10 hours.
It just ends with, I have a tendency to repeat myself.
Yeah, that'd be great. But you know, like, go read other shit. Go read Little Buses. Little Buses is good.
Yeah. I think the other thing I wanted to talk about is we had a few great comments since episode 5's last recap.
I love all of you.
Including one which was on the episode 5 recap, which shattered my perception in a way that was like so obvious. It to the point where I was like, have I thought this before? Have I not? I don't remember. But Lucy of NA, I guess is how you say this person's name. I'll throw a screen cap up. But they made the really interesting point of, in terms of like characterizing the message bottles and how they're written by the culprit versus other people, the perspective of Battler in the first 2 episodes as being this immature, still grabbing at women's breasts and things, like compared to himself in episodes 3 onwards, and particularly in episode 6 where he's like dead serious and has swapped roles with Beatrice. How the authorship of his role in the story particularly characterizes the author's perspective.
Yep.
And how, you know, Seo would have only known Battler from 6 years ago, so that's why he still behaves like a 12-year-old, even though he's supposedly had all of these jacked up pills to make himself swole or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is a detail I keep forgetting from episode 1, but apparently it's a thing.
Don't worry about it, it's fine. He had a growth spurt. It's not unnatural.
Totally natural.
We don't endorse the use of drugs on this program.
It was completely natural.
Completely natural. Yeah, I mean, this is, once again, one of the things that I love about Umineko, that everyone, like, no one is a real person. Like, and this is true for all fiction. None of these stories that you are reading have real people in them, guys. I know that's shocking, but, like, when you read a piece of media, the opinions expressed by those characters are not actually, like, their opinions. They're usually the opinions of the writers. And that's what's fun about Umineko.
Hold on.
Because you're like, yo.
What if, Ben, what if...
Shush, you're going to say something real stupid.
Yes.
But I'm making a completely valid point, and I hate you for this.
What if...
Continue.
You and I are actually just one person, and this person is a really talented voice actor who can do 2 bad voice actors.
I would
the same
die.
time.
I would just die. Immediately.
Really?
Shout out to that one person. Where is the comment?
Oh,
we have to find this.
yes.
You know what comment I'm talking
I
about.
know exactly
it was
which
like,
comment.
rumor has it that if we gotta find the comment.
Yeah.
Felix and...
It was
Felix is actually an amnesiac.
CADR003.
Yes.
There's a theory out there that Felix is actually the one who wrote Umineko, but suffered a memory loss after an unfortunate drowning accident, or maybe a car accident.
Conflicting sources.
And Ben is actually a lonely late 20s mystery author that is helping him recover his memories. But you didn't hear this from me.
Shout out to you. You are the best person in the world, objectively.
I absolutely lost it the first time I read that comment.
Because, yeah, like, I guess have we talked about this some of the playthrough? We must have, but, like...
Bring it up.
This is something that was in my mind when we were agreeing to, like, do this playthrough. I was like, it's like Toya and Ikuko.
Didn't we agree to do this playthrough before you finished?
Did we? Maybe. I don't think so. I think we certainly agreed it, like, during EPA.
Oh, no, yeah, that's right. You were pitching me.
I was pitching you during episode 6, and then
you went nuts.
And then I went nuts, and then after EPA, I was like, we have to do this, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, that's totally what this dynamic is. It's so appropriate, and I don't, like... I don't know. I feel like this was probably the best way to like YouTube Umineko. I would never have done this by myself. I feel like this format of like me knowing everything and you knowing nothing and trying to figure it out is like just so perfect for the way that the story unfolds.
I think it's so much. Like aside from being an interesting parallel to the story, it's also just a really fun way to do it.
No, I agree.
We've definitely brought this up before, but guys, if you have a friend you want to bring through the story, do it with them.
Yeah, do it with them.
Do it with them.
Do it with a friend. Bring friends. Make sure they're not an asshole, because that sucks. If you get stuck doing a playthrough with some son of a behind that you don't like very much, that, you know, gets everything right immediately, and you got nothing to tease them with.
God,
Ugh.
Wouldn't that be the worst?
That'd just be the worst.
Just imagine if they figured out the culprit as a joke in episode 1, and then you had to sit through with them for another 200 hours.
Insufferable. Literally. I have a gun to my head right now. That's the only reason I'm here. It's because you threaten my life on a weekly basis. Yeah, anyway. It was great. No, seriously, I've enjoyed my time here. Felix is pretty cool.
Oh, thanks. You're alright.
Mwah, kisses. Alright, so, what are the other comments? There were other amazing comments. We got them, like, pinned in the notepad. The thing, it's time for the detective's notepad into just all the best comments, which is great.
So one of the other comments that came up was the idea of Beato as a sympathetic character, which I thought was very interesting because it was basically saying that Beatrice was a terrible person and that their role in the story, regardless of how it's framed to be sympathetic, is just wrong because, they're the murderer. And I think the response to this is pretty obvious.
Yeah, it is.
I think the response to this is pretty obvious in that there is a reason we don't get an answer to the story in terms of who killed anyone.
Yep.
Because immediately when we get that answer, it locks in, this is the person that is reprehensible. This is the person that is the real bad guy.
Yeah. But there's not supposed to kind of be one.
Yeah, because it's a work of fiction. As best we know, it is entirely possible that someone went down and was like, what does this clock do? Turned a dial. And I was like, I guess it does nothing.
It was just Shannon doing some spring cleaning and she just flicked it with a little feather duster and that was it.
In which case, is Kinzo really the bad guy for leaving that much explosive material below the island?
What? No, he's blameless. He's blameless.
Yeah, I thought one of the interesting things about this, at least what it made me think of, was in terms of, especially with how the characters are framed later in the story, which, oh my goodness, in episode 6, talking about how characters are framed later in the story, goodness.
Yeah.
But, especially with when we get into, broader culprit theories and, other potential realities where certain things did or didn't happen, I really like the way that the story plays off its own ambiguity. I think that it speaks more for the motive of the story particularly well.
Yeah. I mean, the point of the story isn't to say this is the culprit, to say you need to think about it, you need to figure it out. I remember there's a scene in episode 5, actually, that particularly springs to mind in regards to Beato and her role in the story, which is something that keeps coming up, where Natsui is on trial and Beatrice is like, no, she's not the culprit, I'm the culprit. But of course, as was also seen in episode 6 when Beatrice carries out the murder of Natsuhi, she doesn't actually. Beatrice, despite being the despicable character, never actually kills anyone. With her own hands, never offs anyone, never does anything. She mostly just talks shit. That's her entire thing. If you don't like her because of the way that she's talking to Battler, that's a thing. She treats Battler like shit in a sense, but it's also, that's the role that she's been given in this story. That's even Byrne has the role of the kind of offstandish watcher who's going to rip the guts out and all that, which is just, oh god, that scene in the tea parties at the end of episode 6 is just horrifying. I love cats, guys, but Byrne freaks me out a little bit.
Best played with your fellow monsters.
Yay.
What a great line.
It is beautiful. But it all, for me, the way that I think about the characters always comes back to the fact that they are characters and they serve a role. I've seen plenty of people go in and tell me about how much they hate Ava every time she's on screen, and I'm like, I love that she causes conflict. I love that she can be an antagonist, but also very helpful. I love Beatrice because she is multifaceted and because she is a strong character. She's smart, she's, witty and all that. And I want to marry her, and I also want her to step on me a little bit. But that's fine.
Is this too far?
No, definitely not. But I can understand why you would find Beato to be an unsympathetic character in that sense. I actually know a lot of people that don't like the way that episode 3 portrays her because it's such a 180 from how she's portrayed.
Moetrus.
Yes, Moetrus. They're like, but she was such a cool witch, and now she's all childlike and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but that's
the point.
Yeah, that's the point. It's about showing the different sides of people and how they can be the villain and then the hero, and then sometimes both at the same time. That's how she writes characters, and that's what I love about them. That's what I find to be interesting because they aren't they follow their roles, but they also and not two-dimensional, if that makes sense.
That was one of the other things that was really exciting to me about this episode was seeing Kyrie use magic. Aspirity made a comment. Shout out to Aspirity, which is basically like what a perfect way for the one of the greatest magic deniers to use magic by just saying it's a nightmare.
Yep.
And I particularly enjoyed how
painting over the truth, perhaps.
Yeah, I particularly enjoyed like how that scene was framed relative to Natsui's actions that we uncovered in episode 5.
Yeah.
Where it was like, oh hey, look, Natsui went to a cliff and then a demon made her throw a baby away.
Yep, magic.
And Kyrie's like, well, I was going to kill her, but then fortunately it just happened anyway.
Yep.
Like, regardless of what the truth actually is, I love that there is foreshadowing that says Kyrie probably killed Asumu.
Yep.
Like, I don't think it's important which the truth is or is not.
Yep.
But I think that the foreshadowing is definitely there to tell you, like, maybe it is the case.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, it's the cat box. The whole point of the damn novel is that everything is in the cat box, and we don't know what's true and what's not. We can heavily imply things, but at the end of the day, this is also being written by a human. This is all being written by, well, multiple humans, and that's what's fun about it. If there could be multiple accomplices or even multiple murders, then why not multiple authors?
I'll tell you, this is gonna make Ben real excited. But I was watching a video by Adam Coble.
Oh, I love that man. Do tell.
And he was basically talking. It was for a roleplay system called Stars Without Numbers, which we were.
Adam Coble is a game master. He works for Mr. JP, Mr. It Me JP, and he does roleplay games. And he does a lot of analysis. I watched him this morning. We're gonna date ourselves now.
No, stop tangenting.
I
want to get to the point.
No, I was gonna say he spent an hour talking about a 1-minute bit of footage from a game trailer, and it was great.
Oh, nice. But he made the point in discussing Stars Without Numbers that he didn't like allowing non-human like players, like people, to play alien races or whatever, even though it's a sci-fi game.
Yep.
Because he felt like it did an injustice to
aliens.
The idea. Well,
yeah.
to the idea of foreign cultures, the idea that if you are a certain culture, you can never really understand and get in the head of another culture in quite the same way.
Yeah.
And especially when you're talking about an entire different like history of a species. It was very hard for it to ever feel significant enough other than just like a cosmetic thing.
Yep.
Yep.
I definitely feel you.
And I particularly enjoyed like looking at the story in that same way, in that, we can only ever write things that we understand. And this, going back to the whole Kawabata theory, which I think we discussed in the first recap, where it was like you write what you know, and that's why Kawabata, the captain, appears as the plane captain in episode 1, because that's the captain that maybe Sayo knew.
Yep.
But I really like seeing the whole concept of you write what you know appear throughout the story, especially with like all of Angie's story and how it's like we get little bits of details one after the other as perhaps the author slowly uncovered what actually happened before we build up to what may actually be the truth in episode 8.
They gain more understanding and more, and this also is, reflected by the fact that Ryukoshi is fleshing out the idea in his head of what the story actually is, which is what's kind of fun about that idea for me as a designer. But this is part of the reason why I will defend Gota till the end of days. Everyone's like, Gota doesn't even matter. He doesn't even need to be there. And he's just an idiot. And I'm like, but maybe he wasn't. Maybe he wasn't as much of an idiot as you claim he is.
But he's not a real person, so he's being
his
character is
shush you. Yes. Well, this is the thing. Like, Gota is being written by someone who doesn't like him. This is the truth of the story. That is why Gota exists, to show you that, like, this is what happens to people in the world that someone creates when you don't like them, right? Like, I don't like elves very much, so I'm probably going to play an elf like a fucking idiot. And Sayo doesn't like Gota, so she's going to portray him like a guy who will willfully get himself killed for trying to, like, suck up to whoever's in charge. Shout out to episode 2. And that's, it's one of the really enjoyable things about, the nature of storytelling. Why do we write stories? What do we write them about? We write them about what we know. We write them to, like, tell lessons. I love it.
All right. Well, I think we're just about done with comments. We probably stitched it a bit together because we're taking long breaks here looking for comments we wanted to talk about.
It's been fun.
Because some idiot was like, I can remember all the comments. No, you can't.
It was definitely you. Definitely not me, for once.
It was 100% me.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I'm responsible for many fuck-ups, including one line that I flubbed, and I'm sorry, 4 or 5. I'm sorry.
I love that you're more bothered with that line than you
any
were
other line.
about stealing Blanor's
I don't
main
care.
line in the episode
Whatever.
as Erica.
Whatever. She can have. It doesn't matter. Erica needs more lines anyway because she's best girl. Point is, I'm sorry,
hold on,
4 or 5.
Did you just say that?
I didn't say nothing.
Did you just say Erica's best girl? Did you
No.
just betray the cult of Beatrice?
You can prove nothing, Catbox theory. Anyway, point is, I'm sorry, 4 or 5. I wanna apologize for you. I even realized as I was saying the line that I'd fucked up because it's such a great joke when she's like, "Oh, I'll remember to say Roger next time," and then she's like, "Oh, Roger," and it's a great line, and I love it a bit, and I fricked up.
You did.
Best bunny girl.
So,
Not true. 410 is better. I'm sorry, 4 or 5.
wow.
Continue.
This is more of a roller coaster than the whole episode right now.
Look, I'm doing fine.
So, in terms of episode 6 holding up on a reread,
Ooh, yeah.
I'm really torn because a lot of the episodes I've gone through and have just straight up been like, this was better on a reread. Like episode 3 was so much better understanding what was actually going on.
Yeah.
Episode 4 improved a little bit, but I already really liked that because of how it made me feel about the story. Even though I didn't necessarily agree with its writing as much.
Pacing. Lots of scenes.
The pacing, on a reread, I think the pacing is less of the issue. Like, specifically I'm saying on a reread, pacing is less of an issue.
I was going to say.
Because you understand the motive for the pacing on a reread.
Yep.
But, yeah. But episode 6 is one of the ones where I've gone through and I've been like, well, this is about the same. Like, there were some scenes that were, like, way better where I was like, oh, shit, that's what this means, and that's what this means. And then there were other scenes that was like, oh, my God, we're just doing this again.
Well, the thing about episode 6 is that, first off, you knew a lot of stuff going in. You were much more in Featherin's position than Anjay's.
Yeah.
Secondly, episode 6 also explains itself a lot more. So there's less to unpack in that sense. It's a culmination of all the episodes leading up to it, especially with the duel and the way that, you know, Shannon, Cannon, and Beatrice interact and all that stuff. It's more of a culmination of all the episodes than like presenting you with more mysteries, because that's not the job of this episode. It's not to give you more stuff to unpack.
It's just definitely strange because, you know, going through, I don't like. Let me think how to phrase this, but you know, previous episodes you go through and. I'm more interested in seeing the extra things that I can come to glean from the episode, whereas we get to episode 6 and it's more just like, oh man, that cool moment that happened and I want to jump to those.
Yep.
I don't necessarily think that it makes it bad, and I don't necessarily want to speak ill of episode 6 because I still think it's a great episode, but it's definitely getting to the point in the story where, and I suppose this is a sensible point in the story to be at this place, but, you know, as with Van Dyne's rule, it's like you should be rereading it and it should be staring you in the face. I feel like we've now gotten past the point in the story where the solution has already more or less been spoken. So there's less of that satisfaction of going back and being like, oh man, that's what that means, and this hints at that.
Because we already know. Like, we figured that out in the first time through.
Yeah.
Like, you even figured stuff out about episode 8 at this point. So it'd be interesting to see how you take episode 8 specifically. I can't imagine all those Shonen fight scenes will go down well.
They were bad enough the first time.
Yeah, I feel that. But yeah, as you said, we're past the halfway point. We're past episode 4, which is like the end of like
not even the halfway
the end of presenting
point.
questions, but like,
I mean like the point where the detectives like gather everyone in the living room. I have a solution. Right. We're past that point.
We are.
To my mind.
Yeah. We're into
which is
the,
funny
like,
because that's basically how episode 7 opens. Is everyone's in the room and the culprit's sitting on the altar.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we're at that point in the story. There's much less to unpack now. We're now coming to the like exciting climax, which is Ryukishi needs to work on those in some ways.
Well, I mean, that was what I wanted to kind of segue into. Is I feel like having gotten this far through on a reread, I now understand more the perspective of why people feel so iffy about episodes 7 and 8.
Yep.
I mean, I'll see how it is when I actually get to reread it again, but I definitely understand that suffering through, you know, the first 6 episodes the first time can be like really grindy, and then you get to 7 and 8 and it's like, oh my god, look at all of these answers. But then going through the second times, episodes 1 to 6, you're like, holy shit, look at all of these hints.
There's not much to look forward to, right?
Yeah.
Because you know what's going to happen. You've already reached a level of understanding by the end of episode 6. And if you haven't, then 7 spells it out for you. mostly, which is nice. But
Yeah,
you know.
like I'm excited to get to editing 7 and 8 because there were some great moments for us that happened.
Yep.
But I'm less excited to get there because it's like I don't need to be exposited more.
Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything that I'll ask you to like look out for on a reread. I mean, mainly looking at probably like Burn and yeah. I mean, it's the characters that are the focus of episode 7 that I was the most interested in. Like looking at Leon and Burn and figuring out what's like why they're even bothering with episode 7. Because they are not our protagonists, right? Beatrice and Battler have wrapped up by episode 6, so they don't matter as much in that sense. The entirety of episode 7 is not about their arc anymore. But we'll see. We'll see if you can glean anything interesting from it on the re-edit.
Let's come up with some earth-shattering new information
that'll
grind the fandom to a halt.
Absolutely.
Stop the presses.
Stop the presses for you, and you're going to predict the next When They Cry game before it even comes out. I can't wait.
Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be pretty great.
Should
actually.
I do that? Should I try
I would
that?
love you to. I don't know that that's going to make it's going to happen, but
All right.
look, I have a lot of faith in you. I have absolute faith in you that like you can figure shit out without having to look anything up or cheat or anything. But like, you know, hot take, I reckon you could probably predict the next One They Cry. Fuck me. Anyway, we'll see you all in the...
I had something else to say, but that's it. We're done. I can't move on from
We'll see
here.
you all in Requiem
We're
of the
done.
Golden Witch. Requiem. Woo! Woo, Requiem! Yeah! Bye.